Hey guys, let's look at nesting components today. How are you? How are you doing? I hope you guys are fine and I hope you are following the class. So we're looking at nesting components today. Remember at the end of the last class, I showed you how to create a single page component, your layout, and then point your layout to the single page component. So we have a single page component, which is this. You see it in our pages, and this is the layout page right here. This is the layout page. Okay, let's see how we can nest a component inside another component, a full page component. So remember we have this component here, hello world, which we're playing around at the beginning of the series. But now we want to nest this component into our full page components. So one way to do that, in the past you could usually say at livewire and then just call the component name. But in version 4, the syntax kind of changed to this actually. Not that you can't still use the old one, you can still use the old one. We have the new syntax, so it's still livewire and then it's referencing hello world. Okay, so don't feel like it's different. Now you can see hello Kelvin, and which is coming from the component here. So if I just to be sure, I'll change it to smart and then refresh, it changes to smart. What if we want to pass parameters from our parent components to the child component? How would we go about that? Livewire offers a very handy way to pass components to our child. Let's just see how we can get the components first of all. Now, using our mount method, like I said, we can pass the name, but I want to call from the database. I already seeded the database with some records, so I'm just gonna call. Let's just declare the variable here, the property here, and say public dollar name. Yeah, not even like that. Public dollar name. Right, so we have the variable declared. So let's call the users table, right? And we're gonna use, we'll say user and get all. No, just get all. Doesn't matter. I don't want it to be random. So let's get all. Then we'll try to echo it here. And again, we're going to use blade, blade syntax. So we're gonna say for each. You know what? Why not change it to users? I think that'll be fine. Users as dollar user. I think that should be fine. So we can have this, but I'm gonna change this to users and not our user. I don't need this one anymore. I'm gonna change it to users and have this be user. All right. So I think that should be fine. Sorry. I think that should be fine. Just for you to see that it's actually coming, then we can now look at passing it to the database. Sorry, passing it to the child component, which is inside the component. So I'll refresh here. Oh, I have an error, sorry. User not found. Okay, so what is that error? Okay, I haven't passed in the model. Right, so I'm gonna use user model. Okay. So let's refresh. All right. So now you have the names coming from the data table. If I make it clear for you to see, all right. So you can see the names coming from the data table, and Hello Math is coming from the child component. How do we pass the data we're getting from here into our child components? We can say users equal to dollar users. Right, so I don't have to put this one here. So Let me split this so I can really work with it. So I've said users, right? So here I have to come and declare the property and say public dollar users. Then I have my mount method again. I don't need this one. Okay, I just use it for mount. Mount method, and then I'm gonna pass in the property in here and say dollar users, right? So it should give me dollar users here. Then on my front end, I can just pass this. I just take this one and put it here. I'll just put it here and then uncomment it out. Then I'll say below the name from DB show in the child component. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense to you. All right, so let's run it and let's see. If there's an error, we'll then try and debug the error and see where it's coming from. So you can see it here now. Below are the name coming from the child component. So now you see these are the names we have passed into our child component. Okay, so off the top of my head, I actually didn't plan for this, but let's say we want to reuse the component, right? Instead of passing all the parameters in the component, what if we want to use or reuse the component? How would we go about that? Right? What if we wanted to say something like this, right? And then put this inside it. Would that work? Because we should be able to reuse a component. So if we're going to do this, will it work? So obviously we'll now have user here. So instead of users, we're going to have user. So we're passing in user in here. Then I guess all of this will still have user here. And let's change this parameter to user, and then we'll just set everything to user. All right, good. So we probably don't need this for each anymore. Right, we'll probably not be needing this for each, and I'm gonna remove this one. Right, let's just comment it out, and let's try and run it. This is I've actually never done this, but I don't know if it has an error. We'll try and debug and let's see. But theoretically, I think this should work because we're passing just one. So we're basically reusing the same component several times instead of having one single component. Okay, unable to resolve dependency parameter. Require $user in class. Okay. After a few seconds of looking at it, you know what I found? I think this was the problem. I forgot to comment this out. So it was still showing me $user. I'm like, where is $user coming from? But if I comment this out, hopefully it works now because, yep, and you can see coming from, these are the name coming from the GB. So if I go ahead, I come here and maybe add a button. There used to be a magic function, but I don't know if that still works. Dollar refresh. Does that still work? I don't know. Okay, so now I have on each component. So remember we're looping the components here. So I have on each component this button and the name I'm getting from the database, each of their users, right? So this is how it looks like. You have your refresh here. So if I click on the button, notice that, I just want to zoom a bit. If I click on the button, you notice that the name is changing. The number is changing, right? The time, because it's actually refreshing it. So you notice that it's changing. But one thing is that it's not refreshing all the components. It's just refreshing that particular component. Okay, so what if I put it on the main component, on the parent component, I mean to say. I have it here. Then I'll say, just for clarity, yeah, I'll say on the parent component, and I'll put this one here. I already wrote it, so I'll just remove this one. That's fine. All right, so I'm the parent component. This is the Okay, so you see it has its own time now, right? If I click refresh, you see that it is only refreshing for the parent company. I'm going to reload the page. I reload the page. You notice that all the components, all the times changed. I reload it again. Try to watch for the times. Make it bigger again. You notice that all the times changed. Did you see that? To the same exact time. All of them refresh. But when I click on the refresh button here, it is only the period. Why is that? So basically, livewire on the initial page load, it will render all the components, including the child components, going to render that. But after the initial page load, is going to be dealing with the components individually. So even if you have other components, that is child component inside your main component, it's not affecting whatever you're doing, is not affecting your child components. You see, it's only, and you can really use this to optimize your page. For example, maybe you have a lot of things that are loading at the same time, but it's only one thing you actually want to load, right? You can actually now break them down into other child components, so that when you are dealing with what you are dealing on the parent component or on a child component, it does not affect the other components. You see that? So I can change the times and it doesn't affect the other component. Okay, so what if I wanted to delete one of the names or one of the components? How would I go about doing that? Okay, so again, I'm just spitballing, and let's see what we can do. We could probably add a button. We could probably add a button, and we're going to take this button here and put it here. Okay, let me say remove, sorry, remove contacts. Okay, you can have remove contacts like this if you want. Okay, so while I click remove contacts, so here I should have a method that says, okay, I need to pass in the parameter. So I'm passing this ID. Am I even putting it in the right place? I'm not putting it in the right place, sorry. I'll put it here, and yeah, user ID. Okay, good stuff. So I'll create the function here. Okay, so let's see how that button looks. Where's the button? There's the button, still saying refresh. Now let's say delete. Delete. Okay. So fingers crossed, we have the delete button here. So if I go to delete this one, it deletes, or at least something deletes, you know. You see, it's something deletes actually. But yeah, and it's re-rendering, but I don't think it's what I actually wanted to do, because you see now, you see this formal Viom and these two names, they are different. So I'm going to delete this one. But you notice that it's the last thing that actually gets deleted. Now, this is where you have an issue, because Livewire now struggles to, because it has to look at the DOM and then delete something and then try to re-render the DOM. So sometimes it has a hard time trying to figure out what am I deleting, because it's all in a loop. Remember, it's in a for each loop. So the best way to go about this is actually to put a key in it, or as I would say, wire key in it. So it's actually wire key and not just key, since it's live wire, obviously. So we use wire key. So it's going to give it a key for each of the variables. So I'm going to reseed the data table. Okay, so we have the data table reseeded. I'm going to refresh now. We should see, yes, we have all our data. So I'm going to delete this Mina Winger. And you notice that's gone. So now, because since we added the wire key, it now helps Livewire to be able to track each component using their particular key. So it's not lost trying to figure out which is which. It has an identifier for each of the components. It's because we added the wire key. So I'm going to delete this Prof. Kayla Nails. I press delete and it's gone. So you see, you can also do that, which is really, really cool. So hopefully I covered all the basics for nesting components. If you want to see more videos like this, if this was helpful, if you have some pointers, let me know as well. I know my mic is not the best right now, and yeah, over time I'll change it. Hope it's good enough for you. The audio is clear, and you're actually learning to use livewire, and the community is still growing actually, and I think this is still a really, really nice time to jump into livewire and see all the cool things that livewire can do. Okay, I've been Ola. I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. God bless you and have a good day. Bye bye.